When companies report record-breaking, overflowing profits, we generally assume the broader economy is thriving. The logic follows that as businesses succeed, the people working for them naturally earn more. But the numbers show a different reality. Right now, corporate profits are hitting all-time highs, while the actual purchasing power of the average worker is steadily shrinking. This gap creates a mathematical tension. If the total value of goods is rising, but the money paid to the people producing them stays the same, it suggests the internal engine of the economy is moving wealth in a way that doesn't show up in the top-line headlines. To see exactly how this tension resolves, imagine a controlled microeconomy. We start with a single factory operating with exactly 10 workers. At the baseline, the factory produces 10,000 in goods. The company pays out 6,000 in worker wages and retains 4,000 as corporate profit. Now we introduce our first variable, efficiency. The company optimizes its process, and output rises to 12,000. But the distribution of this new efficiency is unequal. Worker wages remain frozen at 6,000. The profit margin absorbs the entire 2,000 increase, jumping to 6,000. The factory is now producing 2,000 more in physical goods, but the workers' paychecks haven't increased. If the people making the products can't afford the surplus, we have to ask who is actually buying it. Stretch this exact equation across 1,000 similar companies. This macro-level chart reveals the systemic gap. The economy is now producing millions more in goods, but the aggregate wage pool of every worker combined remains flat. Consumers now lack the actual income to clear the shelves. To keep moving inventory, the system applies a patch: consumer debt. Workers begin borrowing money to buy the goods that their own incomes no longer cover. Bank loans fill the gap. A worker earning 600 borrows an extra 100 to maintain their standard of living. On paper, demand looks healthy, but this growth is an illusion. The consumption keeping the economy afloat is no longer backed by earned income. It is supported by a growing tower of credit. Then, the factories introduce a second variable. To maintain their new speed, they deploy advanced automation, requiring fewer humans on the floor. Returning to our diagram, output stays at 12,000, but 2 workers are laid off. The wage pool drops to 4,800. The remaining workers still earn 600. With labor costs plummeted, corporate profit surges, absorbing the mathematical space left by the lost jobs. The system is churning out 12,000 in goods, but the entire consumer base only holds 4,800 in actual money. The gap is now so wide that massive systemic borrowing is the only thing preventing immediate collapse. Eventually, the credit limits are reached. Banks tighten their lending standards, interest rates rise, and consumers can no longer borrow to cover the spread. When the credit block shatters, artificial demand vanishes. Spending plummets from 12,000 down to 9,000 overnight. Because output is still running at maximum efficiency, unsold inventory begins piling up in warehouses. Facing a cash crunch, companies react by drastically slashing their production schedules. This forces mass layoffs, which shrinks the wage pool even further, choking off demand in a downward spiral. The soaring profit margins are wiped out. The profits only existed because they were extracting cash from debt-funded buyers. The efficiency and cost-cutting measures that built the initial boom are the exact mechanisms that now accelerate the crash. We started with the assumption that high profits are a sign of a healthy economy. Our simulation shows they can also be a sign of a system becoming more fragile. Profit functions as a precise signal of how wealth is being divided between capital and labor. When a system redistributes output away from the workforce, growth on a balance sheet is actually just earned income being replaced by debt. A capitalist economy faces a mathematical dead end if the people producing its wealth can no longer afford to buy it.